Hi from Poma. We're gonna work on drawing faces today. So I'm showing you these sheets because it's really helpful to just draw pages of face parts. So if you ever have time or you're bored, just go ahead and draw noses, ears, eyes over and over. It'll help you whenever you have to draw a face. So I'm gonna show you some basic head proportions. Now we will start with this very simple structure that has an upside down egg with some lines going through it. And then after we get that done, then we will make it look more like the person we're trying to draw. So it'll be more about capturing a likeness. But at first, we start with a standard human proportion. Now, nobody is really standard, right? So we start this way. So we have an upside down egg, and then we have our line of symmetry that will go between the eyes, down the center of the nose, and down the center of the mouth. And if you're looking straight out front, you would be right in the middle with that line. But as soon as you turn your head, like your portrait, that line would get shifted over, right? Because your center of your face is shifted over. You can see I drew these lines up from my nose. You can usually use the width of the nose to figure out where the eyes are going to go. Now, of course, like I said, nobody is standard. My eyes, I believe, are a little bit inside my nose, and I know people whose eyes are a little bit farther apart than their nose is wide. So just know that going in. And then when you add hair to your egg, it sits on top of your egg. It doesn't grow out of your egg. A lot of times students will not have enough forehead because they put their hair too much on their egg. Okay, so you can see how I did it for you. You can see that my line of symmetry is a little bit to the side because you're turned to the side. Sorry if you could hear that motorcycle going by. It was really loud. So you can see I'm just adding a little bit more detail now. All right, so I'm going to draw you from scratch so you can see how this beginning structure helps. Now, I did something a little different. I'm starting with the line of symmetry in the eye line, only because you have an interesting tilt to your head, and I wanted to make sure that I had it right. And then you can see I sort of marked off the egg shape, and now I'm putting it in. By starting out slow like this, it gives you time to make adjustments. My center line wasn't right, so I adjusted it, and that would have been a lot harder if I already had a mouth and nose and eyes. So take your time in the beginning because it'll make everything easier later if your structure is set up correctly. So what I did right there, because your head is turned, I can't exactly just use your nose and go straight up from your nose to figure out where your eyes are. So I had to just recheck against your picture, and the way your nose is lining up with that one eye, it's overlapping a little bit. So that's why I moved that eye over. So I just figured out that my nose was too far down. And your nose maybe isn't super short or anything, but the camera angle, right? It's up from below, it's looking up from below, and so it's sort of shortening your nose. And you're probably noticing that I keep going back to the same spots, so I don't finish like the eyes and then finish the nose and finish the mouth. I keep rotating. that helps me not get too obsessed about one little part. And it also helps me check myself more often. I'm sure you've spent like a half hour on one eye before. uh, we all have, right? And so you don't want to do that too soon. And if you think about it, there's so many other things uh, to look at besides just like the eyes, right? So I'm studying your cheeks now. Like, what shape are your cheeks? And then I will look at like what shape your forehead is, and all of that is super important. Um, and I know we always focus on the eyes and the mouth usually, or at least that's my experience growing up drawing people. That's what I would start with. All right, so I have everything in place and it looks fine. So I'm erasing my structure lines. Know that when you put them in that they should be light because they will go away. If you draw them too dark and they don't go away, you can always transfer your drawing to another paper. So now I'm starting to get into what makes you unique. So I need to look at what your nose is like and what your mouth is like, etc. So you are no longer just an egg. You're a human. So don't avoid nostrils. We have to have them. Um, when you're shading nostrils, you start out strong and then you fade it out. So it's not a dark oval. That's because if you actually look at your nose really closely, the nostril wraps around underneath the actual opening, right? The dark part. So I always do like a little fade. Now, one thing I noticed, because I'm going to give you some help with your Alice drawing at the end of this video, but your pose and Alice's pose are so similar. Have you considered doing your own self-portrait as Alice holding a bunny? Or if you don't want to do a bunny, you could do some other creature. I just thought it was funny, and I didn't know if you knew that, and if we talked about it already and I forgot, I apologize, but it's pretty cool. All right, so I'm putting in some of the stronger braids. So I'm looking at the video right now while I'm talking over it, and I'm noticing differences. So that's something to always remember, is that you are always going to change something, no matter how good it looks in the moment. And 5 minutes later, you'll notice something you didn't see before, and you'll always think, how come I didn't notice that? So that's why it's good to sometimes make your art slowly. And when you think you're done, check it the next day. You'll probably find some things. So I'm going to show you a little bit on how to do braids. So you want to look for common patterns in something this complicated. And so there's kind of like a heart shape repeating, right? And it goes back and forth, back and forth. And it's really easy to get lost or confused since you're not actually braiding hair. This is just lines. Oh my gosh. So you'll notice that I will get confused over and over again, but you just keep going. So what I'm doing right now is how I usually teach students to just make that shape over and over and over. But you can see that's not really realistic. It'll look great, but maybe you want to be more realistic. And if so, I would recommend hopping around and finding the most interesting parts of your braid. And also notice that at the top of your braid, where it's farther away from the camera, it looks smaller, and as your braid comes down, it gets thicker. So you could pay attention to that when you're doing your hair. And then the shading is what makes it. So hopefully that helps. All right, so here's Alice, and I know we're past this in class. I just wanted to show you again how it would work. You can see me checking the eye to see if it lines up with the nose. I'm going to draw a really silly quick bunny. So I really do want you to consider turning yourself into Alice. I think that would be a really fun project! Exclamation point. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.